Welcome to the Mike Hewit Show. My name is Mike Hewit, and my guest today is Karen Watson of Texas. Karen Watson is the author of Being Black and Republican in the Age of Obama, and she's also the founder and president of GOP Buzz, which is an internet portal for conservative event announcements. Hey, Karen, welcome to the Mike Hewit Show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Hey, before I got to learn all about Texas politics, but before we get there, I've been watching the news like a hawk. But before we get there, Karen, tell me a little bit about the book you wrote, Being Black and Republican in the Age of Obama. What's it about? What's it mean?
Oh, just two light topics, race and politics.
You got me when I'm drinking my coffee, Karen.
Yeah. I've been a Republican since I was in high school, and after, having met Ronald Reagan in the 1984 convention when he held it in Dallas, so it was just a shock to me that so many people assumed that I was voting for Barack Obama in the 2008 campaign simply because I was black. So my book, Being Black and Republican in the Age of Obama, is a psychographic analysis of kind of digging into how the left has manipulated this demographic into supporting causes that are totally against their core, and just how dangerous and silly it is. And really, I consider it like a Rosetta Stone between what people are thinking and kind of just breaking that code, and as I call it, to set the captives free. Because I think that for far too long, the black community has been a cheap date to the Democratic Party, and that's just enough.
You know what's fascinating about all of that, Karen, is that there was a time in American history, truly not all that long ago, at least in my life, when the black community would be assumed to be Republican voters.
Oh, absolutely.
And how far we've come in it, and it's just such a defiance of the history of the two parties, in my view. And we can get into ancient history with Abe Lincoln and slavery and all of that. But when we come forward, all of the legitimate advancements of liberty didn't come from the Democrats. And I get in debates with folks about that all the time, whether the old-fashioned Southern Democrats, people know those are blue dog Democrats, they're Republican now. Well, the reality of it is that the Ted Kennedys and the East Coast folks that were doing slave trafficking, these people are they're the same people they've always been, at least with an ideology that says I'm superior, and that's about as wrong-headed thinking as you can get. So that's been one of the things that I'm certain you've wrestled with, and I've never, frankly, been able to understand as to how that happens.
In your great state of Michigan, you have Governor Romney, Mitt Romney's father. When he was the governor there, Michigan was a totally different state.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So what happens is, I tell people, I think I'm going to change my name to Truth, because I'm just speaking the truth. And the truth is that the policies don't work.
Right.
The truth is that the policies of the left are damaging. It's not that they just kind of take a posture of inertia, but what's happened is that these policies have gutted the black family. They have destroyed the black community. We have re-victimized a demographic that it's just unfortunate that they've gotten away with it so long, but that day is over. People are waking up and they're not accepting those lies anymore. So those Democrats better get another plan.
I will tell you, and you're more aware of this than I'm certain, but there are a lot of black folks coming to the Republican table, and even skipping party politics for a minute, coming to the conservative or the libertarian side of the table and saying, enough, we want liberty, we want freedom, and we understand what it means. When you mentioned Michigan, and of course I grew up in Metro Detroit, town called Pontiac is the area that I grew up in a million years ago. And it had, back in the 60s, I went to Henry Ford's hospital a lot for some health issues I was having as a very young person. And of course, so I watched the riots out my window that went on in 67, 68. But before that and after that, for quite a while thereafter, it was always a treat to go, frankly. And then there was a long time I'd moved to the other side of the state. There was a long time when I didn't go back. And you're being from Texas, you may not be familiar with names like Mayor Coleman Young and all of that. But when I go back there recently, last 3 or 4 years for some medical checkups, frankly, went back to the same hospital facility, and I was absolutely stunned, speechless at what had become of Detroit since I was a little boy versus now. And I got to tell you, I think, we set politics aside for a minute and all of that. I think some of these things go to the human spirit. If I make it wrong and not politically correct for you to have faith, if I financially motivate single parent families, and by the way, it doesn't matter what race it is. The black folks are, as you've heard with crime and all that, major cities, Detroit gets beat up. When we take single parenthood off the table, all the numbers for all the races are about the same in terms of crime and violence and suicide and these negative things. So they go, wait a minute, it almost sounds like the black family were purposely destroyed. What do you think? Am I being sensational, or is that how you see it?
Whether the intentional or not, the result is the same. And whether there are people who thought they were making great policies or not, if you accidentally poison your child or you intentionally poison your child, the result is the same. And what we've got to start doing is start waking up and stop acting as if it is not sipping poison into a community where 73% of their children are being born out of wedlock homes.
Yes.
So I do think that in some instances it purely was. In some instances it was just misjudgment. And I think even right now, I think what happens is that people are misjudged their potential in this society, which is why they have accepted the below mediocre standards that the left wants people to place themselves in. That's why they're making everyone a victim.
I think, what I'm saying? I think you're absolutely right. But Karen, the only reason I look for intent, frankly, is to stop it if it's going to happen again. And when I look over the last 50 years of what's become of the black community in total, and I don't mean all black people, please don't misunderstand what I'm saying, but when I look at what's taken place to the black community in America, and then I step back from that picture for a minute, that same ideology that caused that to take place now appears to be targeting all of America. And so for me, it causes me to say, well, if it wasn't intentional, it sure is an ugly mistake that they're now all of a sudden redoing on all of us. It just makes me think that the intent wasn't very pure. It's like, look what we were able to do. Now let's do it to everybody.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and I'm not saying that causation should not be a consideration. My whole thing is like when the house is on fire, let's put out the fire until we'll get to the cause.
Yep.
And what happened right now is that we are on fire. I mean, it is, when you have over 43% of young black youth unemployed, that is a house on fire.
Absolutely.
So I say, yes, causation is always important, but right now we've got to put the house off fire, get the fire out.
I've said many times on this show that we all spend some time looking for ways to save America, and I've said that we can't save America until we save inner city America, and we can't do it, and we can't do that till we save the American family. Frankly, regardless of color, we've got to do something about saving the American family. Just because of some of the stats you just touched on, I find it very, very fear. I got 9 grandkids, and I got to tell you, Karen, I fear for the stability of their future when I see this taking place across America.
And we should be. I mean, because everyone knows that is what's happened. These numbers, which are just raw, just raw data. I mean, it's not a left or a right issue. It's just it is. Today is either Thursday or it's not. That's not today being Thursday is not a Republican issue or a Democratic issue. It's just what it is. And when we are looking at the things that are, we know that this is not sustainable. It is not sustainable to have a huge part of America to be this disenfranchised. And what's happened is that we've taken a climb that was moving away into viability, and we've crippled it again. And that's what we've almost re-slaved a demographic with mentally. There was the physical chains that we put on the mental and the spiritual chains.
Karen, I've often said, in fact, included in my first novel, a comment that goes essentially to what you said, that we've exchanged the physical bonds of slavery for the financial bonds of slavery. And it's just one of the things, though, I think causes this, at least part, or allows it to be, is party politics. George Washington, in his farewell letter, warned America that there would come a point when we would vote for our political party over what's best for the country. And Dr. Ben Carson recently said that he kind of opined, to use that word, he wished that on the ballot it didn't say an R or a D beside the candidate's name, and that would cause the constituency, the voters, to learn what that person is advancing, to actually learn what they want to do and know who they are. What do you think of that?
I think that there was a time when people couldn't tell the difference between a Republican and a Democrat. My gosh, you've gone so far away from that as the East is from the West. So I think it's cyclical. But I mean, there is such a difference, and I think that is what the stark issue is that they're total polar visions for the country, and that's what I think people kind of, you're either a mountain person or you're a beach person, and, you usually it's, you're an apple person or a banana person, and, they don't always live in the same world, and the vision that, this president and this administration has for this nation is very different than the visions of others who say that they were conservative.
Hey,
and
Karen,
that's the danger.
Yep, Karen, I got to stop you for a minute. We're going to go to a break, and we will be right back, folks.
I've made a discovery. The down-home community our grandparents loved is still here. Seriously, that's what you'll find at Renegade River in downtown Spring Lake. You might be looking for a new or used hunting rifle or something for personal defense. Maybe a DNR sport license or fishing supplies, personal and home defense, hunting, Army, Navy supplies, fishing, survival gear, and even a tools and guy stuff consignment department. You'll be greeted by low prices and quick professional service provided by shopkeeper like Hewit. If you're not in a hurry, grab a cup of coffee and join in the conversation. Renegade River, firearms, hunting, personal protection and survival gear, going camping, or looking for emergency products. Come take advantage of the prices while meeting up with old friends and making new ones. Renegade River, next to the police station in downtown Spring Lake, or go to the website renegaderiver.com.
Hi, if you ever find yourself arrested, in jail, and got bail, make sure you call me, Tommy D, at Bad Boys Bail Bonds, 866-728-6400. Because if I can't get you out, you ain't getting out. Hey, have you ever thought about becoming a fugitive recovery agent? And you're not certified, don't know where to turn, don't know what to do or what to expect? Log on to National Academy of Bail Enforcement.com and apply today. Classes are forming soon in Michigan. Tell them Tommy D sent you.
Attention hip replacement patients. Several metal-on-metal hip implants have been recalled, and a jury recently awarded $8.3 million to one hip replacement victim.
Metal-on-metal hip implants can cause excruciating pain and may require expensive surgery to replace. If you had a metal-on-metal hip replacement and it's been removed or it needs to be removed, call the Goldwater Law Firm right now.
I'm attorney Bob Goldwater. Metal-on-metal hip replacements can be dangerous. If you have a metal-on-metal hip implant, even if it hasn't failed yet, call us right now. You may be entitled to substantial compensation.
The manufacturer of your defective hip implant should have to pay for your medical expenses and your pain and suffering.
Your time to act is quickly running out, so call us right now.
If you have a metal-on-metal hip replacement and it's been removed or is causing you problems,
call 1-800-540-9516. That's 1-800-540-9516.
Welcome back to the Mike Hewit Show. My guest today is Karen Watson of Texas. I love saying that. Karen is the author of Being Black and Republican in the Age of Obama, and also the founder and president of GOP Buzz. Karen, when we left off, one of the questions I really wanted to get at, I know it's cliche, but how much pushback do you get from the black community, your family, and so forth, for being conservative?
Well, I would say very little, and it's partly because of the way that I structured my book. And it's kind of, it's not polemic. It really is data mining because, as we were saying earlier before the break, it is either a Monday or it's not. It's either Sunday or it's not. It is.
Right.
So when, people can argue all day long whether this is America, and if they want to call it something, there are just so many. There are certain things that kind of just you have to acknowledge, and the way I positioned my data is to just be so truthful, where it brings the conclusion is self-traveled. So it's not. I'm not beating people over the head with anything except data to bring them to the obvious conclusion, which is it's a failed policy, it is a failed vision, and it is not sustainable what the left is doing, especially being manipulated the black community. The other thing that I bring in, and I tell everyone where I speak all over the country, is that the left understands the numbers better than the right. I think the right is taking the Common Core math to too much of a degree. Because what happens
I'm sorry, that's good stuff there, Karen.
What happens is that the left knows that if you subtract cities like Detroit from the state of Michigan, Michigan's a red state. If you take New York City out of New York, it's a red state. You take Philadelphia out of Pennsylvania, it's a red state. What makes that is that these huge blocks of black voters who are voting in ways that are so harmful to themselves and without understanding their true worth and their true value. When I speak to audiences that are predominantly black, I always mention to them that, we deserve better. We just simply deserve better, especially at the cost that is paid, to go and vote as a Democrat. It's insane. And yet the demographic is slowly waking up and realizing, wow, we were sold a bad bill of goods. And so that's why I'm saying, the Democrats, they're worried about so many other things. They need to realize that the 11th hour has struck for them and the black vote, because they will not continue at the percentages they've been given. The other thing is, too, because I am a numbers person, I always tell people English is my second language because I think in numbers. Which is probably why I like politics, because it's a numbers thing as well.
Sure is.
If the Republican Party would get half of the percentage of the vote that Nixon got in 1968, if Nixon got 36% of the black vote in 1968.
Right.
If Republicans today had gotten 18%, half of what Nixon got in 1968, we would be saying President Romney.
Part of it is that we've kind of diced up, especially, I don't know if it's true on the left or not, but on the right we spend a lot of time shooting at each other.
Yes.
And I got to tell you, I'm guilty of that, because when you say President Romney, my first inclination was to say I can't tell the difference between the two men. The only difference is that Romney's probably a much better executive manager. But beyond that, their ideologies are pretty doggone close. I know I get people mad at me when I say that, but listen, I went and I voted, but a lot of folks that should have helped Romney win. Not to debate your point, because the math is the math. To your point,
Yes.
If they would have garnered that much black vote, he would have won. But there was just as many white folks that sat down and said, "I can't tell the difference between Romney care and Obama care. It all gets to be one big word to them." And it's kind of hard. Even up here in Michigan, I affectionately refer to our Governor Snyder as Governor O. Snyder. Now Governor O. Snyder is a Republican, I think. That's what he says. Says that on the ballot. But then when I look at what he just did a minimum wage bounce. They buried a gas tax bounce inside the minimum wage legislation. They did Common Core to make sure no one can do the math next year, including you and me. And then they did the Obama Cares, and they love to say this isn't Obamacare, but they did Obamacare's Medicaid expansion, which I affectionately refer to as explosion. And I say all of that because it seems like there's a concerted effort within the Republican Party to say, hey, if we can garner all of the Democrat vote and even a third of the Republican vote, forget being a Republican, we'll be whatever the word would be if you combine those two words. The problem with it is that what they don't seem to understand is that the Democrats are never going to side with them, no matter whether they do their agenda or not.
Right.
And if they did, who cares? You still got the same result. Our previous governor was Granholm, and I Facebooked today that she must be very envious of him being able to advance all the things she couldn't get done. True story, though. It's just math.
I think that we definitely do have to keep politicians, the true civil servants, because they are no longer civil, and Lord knows they don't think they're servants. But what we have to do is take back our power, which is, it's like, the election that we just had in Texas with our primary that we just did on Tuesday. We as the people, we the people, and, not damn the politicians. We have to take ownership for what happens as well. When Barack Obama said he was so powerful because he had a pen and a phone, and everywhere I go and I speak to people, I said, how many people have a pen and how many people have a phone? I mean, we act as if we're powerless, and we act as if that we don't realize that we are the employer of these politicians, not the employees of them. So we have to take our ownership with our party as well. But my goodness, I mean, I can give you 17 trillion differences between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama. So
to be certain, and part of what causes me the frustration is that it almost feels like red meat issues, meaning they'll come to them, and I've been to lots of meetings over the years since I've gotten fat and bald. And, you get to go on these meetings and they come in and they do all these. Let me give you an example. In 2010, the Tea Party was really flexing its muscle up here in Michigan as it was in Texas. And the differences I see in Texas it did the other day, we're going to get to that in a minute. But all of the folks, that, at least on a state level in Michigan, I shouldn't say all, I don't want to paint with that big a brush, a lot of the Republicans that came in, they were campaigning, they were candidates, they went to the Tea Party meetings that I was that I was in attendance of, and I'm fiscally conservative, I'm this and I'm that, and I'm going to do this and the other thing, and I don't like Obamacare, and they would go through this big litany of things that they're going to do or not going to do, and everyone would clap like penguins because they were saying what they wanted to hear. Now these folks that I'm at least addressing, which happens to be about plus or minus 39% of our Republican-controlled Senate Republicans, and I'm only identifying the Republicans with, assuming that the Democrats are socialist. So you got 39% of the GOP electorate, legislative body or caucuses in Michigan that supported all of the lists that I just told you. Those were the exact same folks that were at the Tea Party in 2010 saying, no, I'm fiscally conservative. We don't like that either. So I wrote a few days ago, imagine having your political career completely reliant on your constituency not paying attention to what you did on their behalf. So where I'm leading with this is that you just had a big primary. Listen, I'm a Republican, but I'm a big primary supporting Republican. I think that's how we clean house and how we steer the party. So when I look at what's going on in Michigan, I'm not so excited. When I look what's going on in Texas, I'm really revved up. So it looks like the Tea Party had some pretty good reaction down there this past election.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that the ripples are going to be felt about that for a very, very long time. And I think that, and I agree with you, iron sharpens iron. And sometimes people have to get back in. Our founders created a wonderful system so that they could be reminded that they are not the ruler of the world. They are the employees of the people. And so I think that's great. I know that it will probably continue. I really do. Because Texas is a bold state. And, I love Texas. And I think we're the greatest, state in the whole nation. I say that even when I'm not in Texas. So it tells you the kind of way Texans are. But
I can almost feel the smile on your face.
Yeah. No,
Good for you.
I always say Texas is not just a state; it's a state of mind too. But I think we have a lot to be hopeful for because the people are taking their power back, and that's what's important. And that was shown as obvious on Tuesday when down here in Texas during our primary. And there was our current lieutenant governor sent out a mailer piece that said that a Tea Party PAC had endorsed him, and people were like, really? It was just, yeah, it was very interesting. Everyone was like, did you see that? I've never heard of that, that kind of thing. So, but it showed that he knew that the power of the Tea Party is coming back, that the voice of the people have, that they're like, they're standing strong. And then also, remember, we're the state of Ted Cruz, so.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I've got written here while you were talking, I made a little note for myself I wouldn't forget. Cruz and Perry seem to be competing down there to win favoritism with the state GOP. Who's winning that horse race?
I think there's enough love in this state for the Cruz and the Perry and Pauls and all of it. It's a big state and it's a big tent. Because I do think that we do have differences in this party, but I also think that how we deal with those differences, it's not that we don't have differences, but how we deal with those differences are what's important.
You know what
we don't want to be the fussy family.
I agree, Bo. I can tell you one of the things I've always found fascinating is that when I look at the left and then specifically the Democrat Party, which absolutely embraces political correctness, which is left over from a communist time, by the way. That's a different.
Oh yeah, it's mind control.
It absolutely is. So, but when I look at them, I see them as being very, very intolerant and dictating a party line, just like the Communist Party dictated a party line.
Oh, absolutely.
And then I look to the Republican Party, and we're all shooting at each other. We're all arguing to see. In my mind, my interpretation is that the result of that is the best idea is what's going to surface. If you get 15 ideas and everyone's really, really passionate, and one of those ideas bubbles to the top, chances are it's because it's the best idea. But just to say we've got a party line, and if your idea isn't our idea, it's not welcome. I don't know how that could possibly end up with a good result.
Well, I think what happens is, when you look at the future of the party, I think it's very, very bright, because we are, everywhere I go, I tell people we need to stop letting the Democrats tell us we have no ideas. The biggest political idea that ever came out of a party was the abolition of slavery, and we are the party of that, came up with that big, bold idea. So, but we've just got to stop taking our marching orders from the left. We have to get into a posture of moving forward with our principles of liberty, of freedom, of opportunity, of smaller government. I mean, who in the world, how are people even digesting the thought that big government is better for people? I mean, big government has never been better for anybody but people who are in big government. And big government has to be supported by the people who are not in big government because they don't produce anything. So the logic on that is such a false logic that if we begin to wake people up, that we'll finally get there. I always think of the analogy of the Wizard of Oz, which for people who know, it really wasn't just like a kid's story. It really was kind of like a political satire. The yellow brick road with the silver shoes and the no heart, the no brains, and the no courage. And that's kind of where we are now. There's so many people who don't have the heart, the courage, or the brains, and yet we're off to see the wizard, And one of my favorite...
I sure hope the wizard isn't Obama, because if it is, we're in trouble.
Oh, well, that's the whole point. Well, the whole thing about the wizard is that when the wizard is found out to be even shorter than Dorothy and have no influence, then he says, Dorothy, you could have you could have did all this all well. You could have had your heart, you could have had your courage, and that's the kind of whole thing, too. We're kind of sitting around waiting for someone to spread the magic dust for us to become Americans again. We begin today. We begin today, this moment, to take our power back. And the more we take our control, then the less the government will have to relinquish, because they work for us. We don't work for them. They work for us. So it just begins today, where we wake it up and we stop the nonsense. We get off the crazy train, we derail it, and go back to the only thing that works. What's been wonderful is that we have an amazing nation still, but we are also just this close to losing it. And we're kind of like right at that crossroads.
Yeah, Ronald Reagan's A Time for Choosing. When I think of big government of late, I think of the VA, the Veterans Administration. I think about it from two points of reference. First, that we would mistreat and allow our veterans that didn't die in battle to die waiting for medical care is astounding to me. But then that topic, I look at it from a stand back. I say, wait a minute, the VA, yes, it's helped some people, but what we're really talking about is government health care.
Yes.
And it doesn't work. And the concept, the idea that there's so many Americans that can blind themselves from that obvious fact while calling for the same thing for everybody, I think that's fearsome.
And it is. And you're right. I mean, you can't go around and, bite the hand that feeds you, because our amazing, brave military men and women are the hand that feeds us. We don't exist without them. We just don't. They have made the ultimate decision to defend this nation. I mean, and yet we have let them down, and that shouldn't. Then that's not a issue for a right, a left, a center, a lib. It's just, that is shameful. That is shameful.
Yep. Amen to that, Karen. You're absolutely right. When I think about folks sitting at home waiting for an appointment that's never going to happen, and now listen, now I'm not saying that the current healthcare system that we have, even the one that Obama started messing with, was good, but I just think that there were some easier fixes to it than turning the apple cart upside down. But listen, Karen, we're going to go to another break, and we will be back in just a moment, folks.
Hi, if you ever find yourself arrested in jail and got bail, make sure you call me, Tommy D, at Bad Boys Bail Bonds, 866-728-6400. Because if I can't get you out, you ain't getting out. Hey, have you ever thought about becoming a fugitive recovery agent? and you're not certified, don't know where to turn, don't know what to do or what to expect, log on to National Academy of Bail Enforcement.com and apply today. Classes are forming soon in Michigan. Tell them Tommy D sent you.
I've made a discovery. The down-home community our grandparents loved is still here. Seriously, that's what you'll find at Renegade River in downtown Spring Lake. You might be looking for a new or used hunting rifle or something for personal defense. Maybe a DNR sport license or fishing supplies, personal and home defense, hunting, Army, Navy supplies, fishing, survival gear, and even a tools and guy stuff consignment department. You'll be greeted by low prices and quick professional service provided by shopkeeper like Hewit. If you're not in a hurry, grab a cup of coffee and join in the conversation. Renegade River, firearms, hunting, personal protection and survival gear, going camping, or looking for emergency products. Come take advantage of the prices while meeting up with old friends and making new ones. Renegade River, next to the police station in downtown Spring Lake, or go to the website renegaderiver.com.
There is a new catheter that hurts less, and you can get a free sample by calling this number now.
Pain and urinary tract infections have been avoided by many of my patients. The eyelets are polished, so they glide smoothly and effortlessly across your sensitive skin. Medicare and your insurance will pay for up to 200 of these catheters per month, all at little or no cost to you.
Call now for your free sample. It will arrive with a complete 90-day order, and if it doesn't reduce your pain, we'll pick them up for free.
Are you one of the many Americans who undergo CPAP or BiPAP therapy? Replacing your supplies every 3 to 6 months is critical, as bacteria will build up and worn-out straps cause leaks. Call Allied Medical Supply Network and speak to an expert agent who will set up a schedule for your supplies to be delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today and rest easy.
Call 800-284-2512. That's 800-284-2512.
Welcome back to the Mike Hewit Show. Hey, Karen, when we left off, I wanted to touch on a couple more topics before we run out of time today. But first, I've got a couple things on my list. There's a war against women, I'm told, and I don't know who'd be better qualified to tell me if that's BS or not than you. So,
have you ever even won a verbal war against a woman? I mean, I would
that's
say,
funny. I love it.
Just another goofiness. I mean, good grief.
But you know what? But it ginned up a lot of excitement and votes for him. It really did. It caused some folks to say, yeah, they're after me, and I'm going to go vote against them. I can't get my head around some of these things.
It's what's called a low information voter, and it's also by going into the fact, remember when the left started that Julia thing where they were going to take care of this woman from Cradle of Grave? I mean, it's like, really? It's just...
You couldn't even say that without laughing, Karen.
Well, because it's so insane. And it's what I always tell, whenever time I talk to our party and I say, why are we trying to get caught up and deliver the things that the left cannot deliver? Right. The left will come out and say, oh, we're going to give you rainbows on Wednesday. And instead of people turning around and saying, what the, we'll say, well, we'll give you rainbows on Thursday. I mean, we have to tell people, look, okay, the way the world works, you didn't come in here with an invoice to hand to the world. Nobody owes you anything. Pull up your big girl panties and try to make the world work for yourself. Yep. And the best way you can make that happen is a nation called America, which will give you the freedom to succeed, will also give you enough freedom to fail, which you can start again and succeed again. And that is the basic story. It is not all of the magic dust they're trying to tell people, oh, if you do this, you're always going to, their unicorns are going to fly over the sky, and, forget that. We need to act as if people are intelligent enough to know that there's a reality of life, and the reality of life is that it doesn't always, there are peaks and valleys, but you get the highest peak and when you have the opportunity to scale that and know where, it's this constant having to have a victim. socialism, Marxism has to have a victim, and that's what they want. They want to make victims of women. They want to make victims of blacks, victims, and they take people and abuse people and then remind them they're being abused by somebody else. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. To me, the way I've translated it, and just because we're talking about your book, in fact, I want to get back to your book in a minute, but it seems to me if I were a black person, obviously I can't put myself in that role, but if I were, having two messages. One message just says, I don't think you can without me, and the other one says, heck yes, you can, get going. I don't understand how one's not very appealing and the other one's not insulting.
Well, it is very insulting, but people who are hurting are trying to find causation, and when you tell people that it's somebody else's fault, there's this girl at my gym. She's been trying to lose 10 pounds like every other woman I know for the last 10 years. And she said, I just want to know it's not my fault that I can't lose.
You say, I can't lie to you, honey.
Yeah, I know. It's like, forget the Oreo, forget that. She goes, I just want to know it's not my fault. And that is the way people want to live through life,
Yep.
But you got to get to a point where you're just like, forget that. Take ownership. That's what this country is about. That's the American dream, is that you can achieve.
You
can't do, if we don't have America, we don't have anything. Because if you can't make it here, you're not going to make it in China.
Yep.
You're not going to make it in India. You're not going to make it in Russia. You're not going to make it in Europe, South America, Central America. This is our last chance.
Yeah, but what if I'm a loser and I got to blame it on you, Karen? I mean, it can't be my fault.
Yeah.
That's like the person that eats the dozen donuts and washes it down with a Diet Coke and said, I don't understand what's wrong with me.
I don't know why I'm not losing this weight. Exactly.
Now tell me a little bit more about the book writing. I've written a book and I'm halfway through a second book. I got to tell you, I find it therapeutic. I find it tough to find time to sit and write. But are you going to keep writing? I know you've written the one book, but are you done, or what are you going to do?
Well, I have my second book coming out, which is how the Democrats stole the black vote and how the Republicans can win it back. And so I'm going to keep on telling the truth until the captives are set free. I have been very blessed by this country. I started very humble means, had an amazing family, very Christian, solid, hard work was what we were told. I became number one at a very big bank, the Bank of the Universe, what people called it. I opened up my own mortgage company, bought a home in a very exclusive area called Highland Park, and happened to buy it on a street called Beverly Drive, which is the street, and it was all because of the principles that this country afforded and through the God's grace. And I just can't sit on what I've gotten and the doors closing for people to be able to take advantage of what the opportunities that I have, because they're going away or people being lied to. And so,
Karen, did you earn that success working, say, 20, 25 hours a week and playing video games the rest of the time?
Exactly. And I tell people the reason I became the number one, at Bank of America was because I worked harder than anybody else in the whole company.
Yeah.
And that is what we are not telling people, the value of hard work. We're not telling people what that, you receive the accolades of, financial success and the houses and the cars and being able to donate financially to your charities, but it also does something to you.
Yeah.
And it changes who you are. It's like looking at a person who's a couch potato and a person who's ran a marathon. They're different kinds of people. That accomplishment was more than just the 26.2 miles. It's what they became, or the person that scaled Mount Everest. There's something that you get when you summit, and there's something that you get when you win.
I think the human spirit needs a quest.
Yes.
And they need victories. And to say you don't have to, it's not your fault, sit down and watch more TV. I think those things just destroy the human spirit. I really do.
They do.
And victory
They do.
victory does so much more. I remember my daughters when they were 18, 19, 20, and they would have various friends that had this drama or that drama, and they'd roll their eyes at me because they'd say, so-and-so has got such bad luck. I said, well, first off, hardworking people seem to really fall into luck, don't they? And, but the other thing is I would also say that person just needs a victory.
Yeah.
And I really believe that victory is spirit lifting, but it doesn't come in the form of an entitlement or a government benefit. It comes ever happening, to your point about climbing Mount Everest.
Yeah.
I have a goal, I'll work really hard, which feels, this is backwards for some people's thinking, working really hard and achieving something. The working hard part is as fun as the achieving, because you know you're going somewhere. You get to the end of the day and you can go, wow, I'm tuckered out, but I'm really proud I can write down on a piece of paper what I did today.
And it made you a different person.
Absolutely.
And what we are doing is we are failing a generation and a demographic and not giving them that experience of having, of dreaming, of just dreaming and going for it. When you're a victim, you believe someone owes you. When you're a victor, you believe that you owe the world.
Absolutely.
And that is a nation that can accomplish anything. What we are creating and we're allowing to be created is a nation that can't make a decision about policies, that can't lead from ahead. I've never heard of leading from behind. I've never understood that. I've never heard of a president going to West Point, of all places, and talking about the lack of a need for military
Did you notice?
prowess.
Did you notice that a majority of the West Point graduates did not stand up when you walked in the room?
Yeah.
I have to, and by the way, there's a lot of people listening to this that are going, well, that's because of racist. He's black. Well, you know what? It's nothing to do with that. They don't respect what the man's ideology is, what he's doing to this country.
Isn't he half white too?
I've always wondered.
Don't we forget that his mama was white? Yeah.
It is magical,
God.
isn't it? Yeah, it is a magical thing. Yeah.
I mean, I think, but he will use. I tell people the left has two cards. They have the race card, and they have Bush. It's one or the other.
But he,
Bush is for blame, or it's the race card.
Now, in Obama's defense, though, he wrote that in one of his two books. I can't remember which, but he talked about how early in his life he realized that racial issue would open doors for him and allow him to. He literally wrote about this topic that we're talking about right now from the vantage of remembering when he was young and experiencing.
Was that one of his cocaine times or something like that? I mean, all I can say is that I've been black, unlike Barack Obama. I've been black all my life, and I
You mean not when it's convenient or inconvenient?
No,
you go back.
Convenient. I've just been black all my life, and not.
That's so funny.
I mean, my goodness, this constant needing to find a victim is what's crazy, and it's defeatist, and it is not for the benefit for the people who are still in Detroit, who are in those urban areas, who have who've had children out of wedlock and are trying to survive. It is not profitable for them. And that is the shame of what's happened with the liberalism, is that they have basically continued to put salt in the wound of a demographic that's already fragile. It's like taking a person with crutches and pushing them down the stairs and then saying that, well, I guess those stairs were just too steep. Well, don't keep pushing me down the stairs. And that's what they keep doing. They don't show people how to make it work in this society. Because they don't have a clue themselves. And it's just, like you said, it's getting the right ideas and getting it out there, but also having the right framework. Because in America, which is the home of the home of the free and the land of the brave, is now become the home of the taxed and the land of the timid. And we can't go back. We can't go back, and we can't keep taking advantages of people who just should be voting their core values. And, I always tell people wherever I go, we've got to start doing a couple of things. First, we have to pray for our nation. Sincerely pray. Second, we've got to stop making people into these hyphenated Americans.
Right.
Because this African-American stuff, that's nonsense. There's no African-American, Hispanic-American, Asian-American, Indian-American. I mean, my goodness.
Karen, the problem with that is that I'm a mutt. So if I were to try to hyphenate, it would take an entire page to get all of my hyphens on. So it's just not fair, and I'm entitled to some fairness.
Well, whenever I would ask, me and my siblings would ask my mom, about fairness and
sure.
fair, she would always say the fair is in October.
I think I like your mother. She sounds like a good lady.
She's a good woman. But we've got to stop this division and putting people into these holy huddles. We're Americans, period. Americans.
Yeah.
If we could be Americans in Russia when we were in the Olympics, we can be Americans at home.
But you know as well as anybody else does, Karen, that the concept of multiculturalism is specifically designed to keep people divided.
Oh, absolutely.
We don't want assimilation. When we always talk about the waves of immigration of America, and when the Polish came, when the Germans came, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Most of these folks that came in after the Industrial Revolution started, it was their dream to become American, and they caused themselves to assimilate. Their dream was to make sure that their children could be American with some sense of pride.
Right.
And now it's the other way around. Now we need to upturn the American culture until there is none and trade for everyone else that comes. And I have to tell you, again, it's like I said about me trying to project myself as black. I try to project myself as a legal immigrant, by the way, but as an immigrant coming to America. And if I were to get here from somewhere else and be told that I can be multicultural and hyphenate myself, and I would think, well, then how come I came if you folks are doing all the stuff that I left for?
Right.
I'm serious. It reminds me of, I had a Russian lady, and I refer to her a lot, but I had her on the show, and she talked for 2 segments about what it was like to be in the Soviet Union. And when I get to the end, I said, okay, well, tell me, you've been an American now for a while. What do you see? She says, that's what I've been telling you. And I don't think folks realize that, back when Reagan said that, and you alluded to it, freedom is only a generation away from extinction. We've really got to dig in and take charge.
We do. Because, there's a story in Texas, and we talk about the Alamo. And Alamo was, it was a church, didn't even have a roof, and built in the 1700s before the Constitution, Declaration, before all of that, when the Spanish came over and brought their missions to all over the country. And so they built this Alamo, or halfway built this Alamo, in what's now San Antonio, Texas. And during the war with Mexico, and Texas was gaining its independence, when the Mexican general Santa Anna came down, he wanted to come and take over Texas, and there were just a small band of men, women, children, black, white, brown, who said, if you want it, you have to come and get it. And even the man that would become eventually the president of Texas, because Texas was its own state, and then even become the senator of Texas because he joined the Union. But he even told those brave people down in Alamo, just give it up. Don't stand in there. Don't hold up against that. There are less than 200 people who stayed and fought against Santa Anna's 5,000 men. And yes, they died. Their corpses were burned, but it became the rallying cry.
I've been there, and it's truly an emotional place. Listen, we're almost out of time, but before we get there, I want you to do me a favor and tell folks how they can find your first book, Being Black and Republican in the Age of Obama. Where will they find that to buy it?
You can find it on the internet. You go to gopbuzz.com, gopbuzz.com. Click on Get the Book, and we will be happy to send you a book.
And the other book is titled, tell me the title again.
The title of my next book is How the Democrats Stole the Black Vote and How the Republicans Can Win It Back.
You know what? It's not fair that you're ahead of me on the second book, Karen. I should be entitled to be at least equal with you, if not ahead of you.
There you go.
That's just fair. Listen.
Well, get to writing.
How do people get a hold of you? Can they email you somewhere?
Yes, you can email me at Karen, Karen, .Watson, WATSON, at GOPBUZZ.com.
Karen, listen, I've really, really enjoyed having you on the show, and I guarantee you we're going to look forward to having you back on again.
I'd love it. Thank you so much for all you're doing.
You have a great night, okay?
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Brought to you by Renegade River.
Professional service provided by shopkeeper like Hewit. If you're not in a hurry, grab a cup of coffee and join in the conversation. Renegade River, firearms, hunting, personal protection and survival gear, going camping, or looking for emergency products. Come take advantage of the prices while meeting up with old friends and making new ones. Renegade River, next to the police station in downtown Spring Lake, or go to the website renegaderiver.com.
I use catheters, and if you do too, please listen carefully to this life-changing breakthrough. There is a new catheter that hurts less, and you can get a free sample by calling this number now.
Pain and urinary tract infections have been avoided by many of my patients. These new disposable catheters hurt less. It's an incredible new design that reduces pain. The eyelets are polished, so they glide smoothly and effortlessly across your sensitive skin. The old catheters would scrape and cut, causing pain and infections.
These new catheters are totally different, so smooth and painless. They changed my life.
Call now and get a free sample. Medicare and your insurance will pay for up to 200 of these catheters per month, all at little or no cost to you. Medical Direct Club handles all the paperwork with your doctor and includes lifetime free shipping when you call and join. Membership is free. Call now and get your free sample and painful capping today.
Brought to you by Renegade River.
Hi, if you ever find yourself arrested in jail and got bail, make sure you call me, Tommy D, at Bad Boys Bail Bonds, 866-728-6400. Because if I can't get you out, you ain't getting out. Hey, have you ever thought about becoming a fugitive recovery agent? And you're not certified, don't know where to turn, don't know what to do or what to expect? Log on to National Academy of Bail Enforcement.com and apply today. Classes are forming soon in Michigan. Tell them Tommy D sent you.